Good afternoon, dear winter fans. Like a flash, 2023 flew by. Just like yesterday, I was lighting a fire in my old PC, getting warm and waiting for the release of a new game. However, a year later, my summer car is still in a beta and my winter car is still in development. As promised, the developer didn't introduce any necessary updates for my summer car, with exception of fixes, insignificant improvements, and enhanced support for steering wheels, which appeared in the stable release of the game at the end of the year. Not surprised, my summer car had already got its final outlines. Topless Gun once said he didn't like the modern approach to game development, where an empty-based game is released first, following its paid DLCs. Both my summer car and my winter car should be complete editions from the very beginning. That is why the game took so long. After once my summer car was leaked, the new game had been kept under the strict control. By the future release, my winter car is expected to be more ready with more diverse gameplay, unlike my summer car at the day of its leak. Today I will tell you only the news that came out since my last video, so if you want to watch them, and if you haven't seen it, check the links in the description and in the pinned comment. The development of my winter car started in May 2020. Initially based on its predecessor, the new game has been almost completely remade by Topless Gun. For example, the car assembly system has been completely redesigned. Comparing the assembled Corris Rivette with Satsuma, you'll find an optimization increase in around 12%. At the same time, you will still fly into air once the doors are opened and you suddenly die on bumps and so on. You know, because it's not a bug, it's a feature. Topless Gun is already playing his own game with all his might, tasting it and sharing his impressions. Here's how the things go. The main character in his 20s finds himself in a difficult economic situation. Obviously, he has to go to work. Everything is against him. Winter, alimony, rent, expensive utilities, fines, Damus monopoly, finally a project car. Our start capital is a little more than 3,000 markers, and it's melting right in front our eyes. Meanwhile, a new enterprise opens in Alevieska, hanging its advertisements on the racing cars. There is nothing left to do, let's apply for a job. The alarm clock rings. Would be nice to snooze a bit more. Hate Mondays. Baby, it's dark and cold outside. We start our winter beta, Sorbett, and I headed to work. So on 5 days a week. Keep your hands out of record button. What are we driving? Not long ago, News with Cassidy, that's me, has revealed the interior of Sorbett. The curious eyes recognize Talbot 1510. This is originally a French car called Simca Model 1307, which was once part of the Chrysler Group.
Talbot présente la 1510. Une nouvelle voiture succède à la 1307-1308. Une ligne plus fluide.
Oddly enough, the car was originally designed as a competitor to Ford Taunus, which is the project car in this game. At the end of its popularity in Europe in 1979, the Finnish Sepp Walmet bought out the production of Sorbets and launched it in Finland. A front-wheel drive car was equipped with a 65 horsepower diesel engine. In Europe, Finnish Talbots become unpopular due to poor build quality and the tendency to quickly corrode. Its production was ceased in 1985. By the way, Sorbett was planned as a car that would require basic maintenance, such as an oil change, but Topless Gun stated that at the time of my winter car's release, the Sorbett would be maintenance-free, like for example the van in my summer car. So Sorbett drives us to work. As the developer said, a fully interactive job awaits the main character, in which we need to spend a certain number of hours a day and literally work. I talked about what kind of work this could be in a previous video. If you want to watch it, please check the description and the pinned comment. Due to the difficult economic situation, the developer and the company we work for give us kindly the opportunity to overwork up to 3 additional hours a day. That's amazing. Coffee and energy drinks, which the monopolist Tamer purchased for his store, will help us fight fatigue. In the same time, no one can forbid us to work carelessly and simply receive our salary, simulating vigorous activity during the required hours. However, if we do not work enough hours per week, we will be constantly fired. But it's not the end of the world. We will still be able to find a part-time job. The drunk-yard yoke will still buy kill you from us. We will also be able to complete some kind of new quests related to driving. After all, our Finn, if he loses his job, he will be able to claim unemployment benefits. Topless Gun shared a screenshot showing its application form. I studied it and carefully looked at the date of the document. Many people I know assumed the game would take place in March 99 or even in March 2006, but I took a closer look at the text, translated it, and I quickly found out that this is just the date of birth of the main character. The lines below should include his first and last name, address, telephone number, and so on. The repeated lines below indicate that our character has been unemployed for over a week. In the free time, we will finally be able to start building the Rivette, which is based on the first generation Ford Taunus. Let me remind you that I'm now sharing information that has appeared during the past year. If you want to refresh your memory or learn more about the project car, be sure to watch the videos in the pinned comment.
And the fucking description.
The main difference between Rivette and Satsuma is that we no longer get anything for free. There are no more spare parts carefully laid out around the garage, no car body waiting for you just outside the home. We will have to buy everything with our own money. A body, along with some essential spare parts, will cost us only 500 markers, plus delivery, plus taxes, plus beer for me. Speaking of delivery, there is none. As always, we do everything by ourselves. Jump into the tractor, hook the car and drag the Rivette like a sled to home. We've already done all this, dragging wrecked cars in my summer car. Now the main goal is not to freeze in the tractor. It's one thing to buy and bring it and another thing to assemble it. And this is where the real test of your patience begins. Because you will have to search for them before you buy the required spare parts. Some basic spare parts will be available from Flattery, your local mechanic. Like in my summer car, these parts are fresh and durable. Purchasing parts from him will be similar to what we see in the Tamer store. The mechanic will periodically replenish his supplies. This means that in the new game we are not limited in purchasing spare parts and will be able to purchase as many duplicates as we want. Or not, there will be 2 types of spare parts in the game. The limited ones, such as an engine block, cylinder head, and non-limited, say 10 copies of fuel pumps or 5 identical suspension elements. We can find them in newspaper advertisements. Other car guys will sell their used spare parts. All of them will be of different qualities and different prices. The genius of Topless Gun is in that the ads are generated randomly, and it would be probably take a lot of time to find the exact part for Rivette. But one day, if you are lucky, the long-awaited package will arrive at your house by mail. In some cases, it will be possible to solve the problem with money and simply order something through the catalog, which looks familiar from my summer car. In general, the assembly process promises to be as detailed as possible on the unit. Gun said that the engine is now assembled from more elements. For example, the rocker shaft will have a lot of small parts. Setting the timing belt will become more difficult. By the way, Rivette has the timing belt instead of a chain. The engine will get a thermostat and an oil pump, and even the oil temperature will be taken into account and will directly affect the wear of the engine parts. My winter car will have a lot more spare parts that can break. Not only engine parts are subject to wear, but also suspension, brake system elements, heater, wiper motor, all of these can fail. The good news is that the condition of most worn parts can be seen by eye. The innovation will also affect body panels. They can be either repaired or purchased. We can even buy a gas tank cap. The process of assembling the car won't change. You will still have to guess the bolt size, install different parts and wiring, just like in my summer car. Every player has freedom of choice in what they want to do. You can build a stock version of the Rivette or go further and make a certain trim out of it. Just like Satsuma, Rivette will have a GT version. Repairing the car will get easier though. Unlike with the Satsuma, you won't have to pull the entire engine out of it if it requires major repairs. In Rivette, you can change the pistons right inside the engine bay. Even if you need to take the engine out, you can leave the gearbox intact. There will be some improvements in the interaction with the mechanic too. If in my summer car we had to pay for the installation of 4 and only 4 tires on the rims, in my winter car we will be able to pay for each tire separately. This will be useful when you get a flat tire. The best thing is that we will be able to call mechanic to ask if the work is done. Flattery will still provide us with a courtesy car. Gun did choose a certain car by now, but as usual didn't tell anyone about it. What we know is that it's a car from the 70s. It's slower than the Ferndale and isn't suited for drag racing. The work on this car is almost done, and Gun just needs to create a paint job for it. But the mechanic's vehicle is not the only one we can use to get home. Our cousin Penna will be still driving around. His car wasn't changed yet. We may use the brand new taxi service, which appears to be the alternative to his green Fiat. The appearance of taxi was the choice of the developer in order to balance the gameplay in freezing cold conditions. I have already mentioned that in one of the videos a year ago. Winter changed the traffic management as well. As always, in order to legally drive on the highway, our car will have to be registered. The inspection list will now require us to have a first aid kit and a spare wheel in the trunk as well. The spare can be finally locked in place in the trunk. The unbribable Finnish cops will still be in charge of the law enforcement. But the thing is that the speed limit on the highway is reduced during the winter, according to Finnish traffic laws. That's why the local government of Alivieska will put speed radars on the road. If you disobey the speed limit, you'll get a fine with a photo of your violation in your mailbox. Sure, you won't receive any fines if you simply remove your plates. But then the police checkpoints will become a problem again. It would be great to bypass these checkpoints by driving on the fields, but now they're covered in deep snow, and you may even flip the car if you fly off the road. Snow will slow you down and eventually get you stuck. Unfortunately, Gun mentioned that the level of the snow will be the same everywhere, and the textures won't be dynamic. That means we won't be able to draw dicks and penises on the snow like in other games, or maybe like you do every day. Rivette will be really dependent on the weather conditions. Besides the freezing winters, heaters and everything that I've mentioned before, the battery may now freeze, and the oil temperature will influence the wear rate. And keep in mind that we will be able to buy oil of different viscosity, and God knows my pee is also maybe the different viscosity. If you still manage to make the car run, there will be a few more activities for you. Every weekend, different races will be held around Alivieska. The good old rally and ice racing. Topless Gun had generously provided us with screenshots on which we can see how the cars of the participants changed during development and how the track on the frozen lake looks like. Now we also know that these ice races are held from Friday to Sunday. What actually will surprise you, and surely did surprise me, is the house in which the main character will live. It was widely discussed that our character would move out to rental flat, having to pay for it, and overall getting screwed by life, but suddenly the developer told us that the parents of our character will probably decide to go to another vacation again and leave their house to ourselves again, together with all of its conveniences. We will have access to a heated garage, running water, electricity, heating, beds, and of course toilet, where we can save the game. Sure, having an entire house to live, it doesn't exclude the ability to rent an apartment, but is there any sense to, move out in such case? Still, we need to take care of the house. Just like Rivette, it depends on weather conditions. If for some reason the house will be left without heating, you won't be able to sleep on it. The water pipes will freeze shut as well, so you will be left without running water until spring comes. However, upon starting a new game, the heating is turned on by default. Like me, I always turned on. We can heat up the house in two ways, using the electric radiators and a fireplace. Obviously, using the latter is much cheaper, since in severe frosts you will have to turn up the heat of the radiators. It's much easier to have some firewood ready for that case. We can chop some just like we did in the summer, but of course a fireplace has its own downsides as well. First, your house is still vulnerable to uncontrolled fire. Second, you can't heat up the sauna, shower and garage with it. There are a couple of electrical radiators in the garage as well that are turned on separately. So it's up to you to spend money on the garage heating or not. In any case, you have a choice of 3 different types of clothing for working outside, like mine, each suitable for various weather conditions. I've talked about this last year as well. Topless Gun is also planning to implement an ability to rent a heated garage from the mechanic. This is pretty mysterious. After the gossip about a rental flat, we actually got an entire house with a heated garage. And after that, we will suddenly be able to rent another heated garage. I think the developer is cooking up something really interesting. This also applies to the process of the development. The game is almost ready to be released in early access. All that is left to do is to finish up the graphics, implement voice acting, and record the magnificent radio broadcasts. Last year, we've received 4 music teasers from the My Winter Car soundtrack made by Ninja Baka, who created such masterpieces like Life Race and Radio Chill. But that's not all the teasers we will get. Right now, Topless Gun is testing out his game and balancing it. He promised to release a few more teasers before releasing the game itself. However, until my summer car comes out of early access, and for now it's still there, we won't be expecting the game to come out anytime soon. In response to a question about the game being released in the next 3 months, the developer said no and told that he's hoping to release it this year.
Well, write your guesses about the release date of the game in the comments. Check the links to previous videos about my winter car in the description. In every video I provide you with the fresh info only, so each video is unique. Subscribe, thumbs up, click on the bell and turn on all the notifications. Rondon was with you today. Until next time, stay well.
Mushrooms!